One of the most interesting shifts in the Pro Valorant meta has been occurring recently, and some of the game's newest superstars are taking advantage of this to change how Pro Valorant will be played forever. The Neon and ISO buff has been a crazy one, with both agents seeing a surge in picks. And while I'll talk about ISO's usefulness in the meta in a video coming soon, which you should subscribe so you know when that's coming out, in this video we're going to dive into how players like Jawgemo and Miniboo have shown the world some of the possibilities of the new Neon, with them being great examples of what other duelists might start doing as teams get more and more used to this speedster being back in the meta again. But before we can really analyze how the best players in the world are playing this duelist, we need to look at what exact changes made Neon dash back into the meta after seeing little to no play for over a year now. So the first major change was to her slide, which wasn't all that useful before, with her now having 2, as well as no more weapon movement error, meaning she's so much more accurate while sliding, as well as her equip being instant out of her slide, making it possible to do this now.
As soon as you start sliding.
And that would be a pretty great buff for Neon if that was it. But she was also given a huge reduce in time it takes to recharge her sprint to full, going from almost taking the entire round to a third of that, meaning she could be running around the map almost non-stop, making her a much more viable entry player for teams. Her flash was nerfed a little bit to only 1 charge to force players to be more strategic with it, but its concussion duration was raised to still keep it very useful for site executes or holding off attackers in a choke point. Overall, this patch that tweaked pretty much all of her abilities instantly got the Valorant world's attention. So really, there was so much clear potential now for Neon in pro play again. And while most teams have been pretty cautious about actually picking her up in the first 2 weeks of play, a few superstars have been turning heads with their Neon recently, which has possibly hinted at a future where more and more duelists pick up the agent as the season goes forward. So before we dive into how Jawgemo and Miniboo play Neon so well, I want to look at an example about how not to play the new Neon in a pro setting, as once we see these superstars play in comparison, it'll be clear the difference. We will be watching the recent T1 Team Secret match, where in the first map of Haven, Secret decided to put Jeremy on Neon, something that before Haven was removed from the map pool was only really being done by Victor or the occasional Pacific team. And for this match, Team Secret were the ones to try it. And just by looking at the scoreboard, you can tell it wasn't a great map for him, finishing at the bottom of his team with 10 first deaths. And when diving into the gameplay, it becomes clear what their problems were. Right from the first round of the map, Team Secret and Jeremy made it clear that they wanted to utilize Neon's speed to quickly take as much of A long as possible, resulting in a number of super aggressive positions for Jeremy, pretty much right after the barriers fall down. This might seem like a good idea, as being aggressive down either long or short towards A is necessary, as without information you'll just get overwhelmed from the 2 different lanes, as the defenders have no time to react and get off site on A, as it's so hard once the attack comes in. So the reason why Jeremy keeps wanting to push right away makes sense, but the issue lies in how much pressure is put on a singular duel, as unlike Jett who can disengage from a duel when they realize they're being overwhelmed, once Neon takes all that space, there's no real easy way to retreat. So when he doesn't hit his first shot on a T1 player, he just gets wrecked, as pro teams usually don't push unknown areas early in rounds alone, especially towards A on Haven, leading to multiple rounds where he would just sprint up A long and lose the opening duel within seconds of the round starting, leading to Team Secret having to play on the back foot without their duelist. That was so important for quick rotations later in rounds. And this was just one fundamental misunderstanding Team Secret had with Neon. We can see another glaring misunderstanding on their attacking half, and how they could never coordinate their executes correctly with Jeremy, as every time they decided to explode onto site, Util would cut him off from the rest of his team, and of course he gets taken out right away with the rest of his team unable to trade off him or utilize his push whatsoever. Now requiring them to still execute on a site, but now without their duelist. And this kept happening in each of their rifle rounds, because just like on the defending side, they try to use Neon's speed and ability to push the tempo the wrong way, as when he does dive like that, his team of course can't push fast enough to get through the choke before the other team hears or sees the Neon dashing in, easily allowing them to activate their util to isolate him. This is because they're using Neon's sprinting ability almost like a Jett dash, but it fundamentally doesn't work for these executes. That's because Jett usually pushes slow up to a choke point with the rest of her team, with her really just pushing onto site with everyone else, just a little bit earlier, with more ability to almost instantly be deeper onto site than the rest of her team, breaking sight lines and allowing the rest of her team to flood through, not allowing Util to cut them off. For Neon, this just isn't really the case, as she just runs faster onto site than the other agents, but really doesn't disrupt sightlines as much in pro play because it's only horizontal movement. The best dive agents for this disrupt by doing something no other agent can do, by dashing at an inhuman rate or going vertical, something Neon can't do, resulting in her having to either clear every single angle as he moves onto site or risk being taken out with ease. And that's why he picked up 10 first deaths in only 23 rounds. Team Secret just didn't understand what made Neon a special agent now. So let's compare that performance to EG's Jawgemo, who to me, and probably everyone else that watched their match against Loud, is the Neon player right now. So let's see how you'd play similar rounds that would lead to such jaw-dropping plays. And right in the pistol of Sunset, Jawgemo corrected what Jeremy and Team Secret were doing wrong, as they instead contacted in during the pistol round with the rest of his team past the common choke point where util would be used to separate him. And right when they didn't feel any serious pressure, that's when Jawgemo started to use his util to dive deeper into sight, using his fast lane to cut off Market and take an aggressive angle down Boba. But importantly, he didn't push up too far. Instead, he's able to use his exceptional movement to easily move back to cover and evacuate off site if he needs to, never letting himself be in a one and done position, always ensuring he has an exit route wherever he is on site. And this leads to an impressive 4K that shuts down Loud instantly and sets the tone for the rest of the map. Jawgemo was the real deal on Neon, and his understanding of how to fight with the team in the attack can be seen throughout all the half, as he picked up 5 first kills to keep the map close going into the defending side, where it was clear that this was the side Jawgemo and EG had heavily prepped and felt comfortable enough about to make it their map pick, as he picked up another 3 first kills, and from the beginning of the half he showed how to correctly be aggressive on the defending side, as a speedy duelist without overextending and putting himself in positions that require him to be superhuman. Of course, Jawgemo on Neon is kinda superhuman, but you'll see a lot of what he does makes sense for what their goals and game plan philosophy is with Neon on maps. Here, Jawgemo wants to play aggressive down B main, to take a lot of space from Loud, kind of like what Jeremy was trying to do down A long on Haven. But for Jawgemo, he had Superman watching his back to trade off of him. And while I'd prefer him not to take this battle with Loud still so deep, he is still able to retreat if he wants to disengage from the duel thanks to his slide and the wall not being spammable, which might get Loud to try and punish him where they would just be taken out by Superman. But it did end up working out for Jawgemo as he eliminated Pancata and returned to site. And while the round got a lot closer than they would have liked because of the Market pinch, they were able to win the round in large part to how Jawgemo took the first duel, making sure that the worst case scenario was he was just traded out, eliminating Loud Smoke's player early for the rest of the round. And small plays and decisions like this swung the map hugely in EG's favor as they ended up running away with it, not losing a single defensive round, ultimately giving Jawgemo and EG the win, putting them in contention to capture a playoff spot, which if Jawgemo continues to play like this on Neon, they have a real chance to achieve it and possibly make a run like last year. The other superstar that had been utilizing Neon greatly has been Team Heretic's Miniboo, who had made Neon his own like Jawgemo so quickly after the buff. For the most part, all the things Jawgemo does with his timing executes with the rest of his team and being able to balance the aggressive and passive natures effectively are here for him as well. But he isn't the same movement god that Jaw is, so instead he has to utilize the new and much improved slides to peek corners and throw off sight lines, usually allowing him or his team to destroy foot on first contact, giving them an open plant and sight to defend. And also thanks to his insane aim, he's able to really utilize the zero weapon movement error, probably making Foot think about petitioning Riot to reverse that change. So the real question is, will Neon become more and more pronounced as teams are giving more time to try and fit her in the comps? Well, as of right now with the current map pool, it isn't the best for Neon, even with the buffs, as it looks hard for teams to even try her out on Icebox or Ascent, while other teams will just stick with Raze on Bind, Split, Lotus, and Haven, which has always been a reliable pick. I only think teams that aren't fans of Raze will be switching a lot to Neon, as they both provide similar explosive diving ability. While Neon now has a better way to peek corners than Raze, Raze still has the vertical element of her entrying that Neon can't replicate, that just makes her a better entry on Bind or Lotus for most teams. Still, Neon has jumped back into the meta as a prominent third duelist again, after having so much time in the gutter with Reyna and Phoenix, but now with ISO are finding spots in comps on the pro stage. And there's a real chance that teams now will experiment more and more with her going forward into the season, making a new meta in the process. Make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss a single video throughout the rest of the Pro Valorant season, as I have so many interesting videos I can't wait to release, and I know you'll like them.